Some stories are about heroes, others are about gods. But this story is different. It's about Persephone, a goddess who did not choose her path. She lived between two worlds, endless summer above, shadowy underworld below. Persephone became a bridge between life and death. Her presence brought spring and summer. Her absence, autumn and winter. Persephone's journey is the reason for the seasons, a story of change, power and transformation. Why do we still tell this story? The gods of Olympus are gone, but Persephone's story endures. We see ourselves in her journey, caught between worlds, facing change, finding strength in darkness. Persephone transforms from a lost girl to a powerful queen. Her myth reminds us that life is cycles, loss and renewal, light and shadow. By understanding her journey, we glimpse the enduring power of myth to explain our own lives. Persephone was born in the brilliant light of Olympus, daughter of Zeus and Demeter, goddess of the harvest. Demeter's love shaped her world, a bond as vast as the fields she commanded. Persephone, known as Kore, was innocence and spring's promise. Where she walked, the land flourished. Her world was Demeter's world, warm, nurturing and safe. But such perfect light is always vulnerable to shadow. Life for the young goddess was a gentle rhythm of seasons, all of them warm. She lived in a world painted with the brightest colors imaginable. She would spend her days with the Oceanids, the beautiful daughters of the Titan Oceanus. They were her friends and playmates. Together they would race through fields of asphodel and hyacinth. Their laughter echoed through the valleys, a sound as sweet as honey. They wove crowns from wildflowers, their fingers deft and quick. They danced in clearings where sunlight streamed through the leaves of ancient olive trees. It was a life of simple pleasures, free from worry and responsibility. Persephone was more at home in the natural world than among the marble columns of Olympus. She preferred the company of nymphs to the schemes of the gods. She felt a deep connection to every living, growing thing. She could feel the pulse of life in the roots of a tree. She could hear the silent prayer of a thirsty seed in the soil. This was her domain, a kingdom of life and bloom. She was not a goddess of grand pronouncements or epic battles. Her power was quieter, more subtle. It was the irresistible force of a shoot pushing its way through hard earth to reach for the sun. Her mother, Demeter, encouraged this connection to the earth. It bound Persephone to her, to the world that Demeter governed. She taught her daughter the names of every plant, from the humble blade of grass to the towering cypress tree. She showed her how to coax life from the soil, how to ensure a bountiful harvest. Every lesson was an act of love, but it was also a way of keeping Persephone close. By making the world of sunlight and flowers Persephone's entire reality, Demeter hoped to prevent her from ever looking elsewhere, from ever wondering what lay beyond the horizon or beneath the ground. But even in this perfect world there was an unspoken truth. Persephone was the daughter of Zeus. This made her a princess of the cosmos, a valuable prize in the divine games of power and marriage. While she danced in her meadows, unaware other gods took notice. Apollo, the shining god of music and prophecy, was said to have sought her hand. So too did Hermes, the swift messenger, and Ares, the fierce god of war. But Demeter refused them all. She would not let her daughter be taken from her. She pushed the wider world away, trying to keep Persephone forever as Kore, her innocent maiden. While Persephone lived in the light, Hades watched her from the darkness below. Hades, brother of Zeus and Poseidon, ruled the underworld alone. His kingdom was vast, silent, and filled with the shades of the dead. He saw Persephone radiant in her meadow. Everything his world was not. The lonely king of the dead fell in love. Hades asked Zeus for Persephone's hand in marriage. The deal was struck in secret, sealing Persephone's fate. Unaware, Persephone picked flowers, while darkness rose to claim her. On a sunlit day in the Nysian plain, Persephone wandered from her companions, drawn to a dazzling narcissus, Gaia's trap for Hades. As she plucked the flower, the earth split open. Hades emerged in a golden chariot pulled by black immortal horses. Without warning, he seized Persephone and vanished with her into the abyss, the earth sealing behind them. Her friends' cries faded. Zeus, who had allowed this, remained silent on Olympus. The meadow returned to stillness, but Persephone was gone, stolen from the world of light, descending into the underworld. Her life as core ended, a new, darker fate began. Demeter searched the earth for 9 days, torches blazing her grief, turning the world barren. The gods watched, silent, complicit in Zeus's bargain. As Demeter's sorrow deepened, crops withered and winter's curse fell. Mortals starved, prayers unanswered. On the 10th day, Hecate led Demeter to Helios, who revealed the truth. Hades had taken Persephone with Zeus's blessing. Furious, Demeter abandoned Olympus, vowing the earth would remain lifeless until her daughter returned. The first winter was not a season, but a divine punishment. Humanity's survival now hung in the balance. In the underworld, Persephone mourned, refusing Hades' gifts and the food of the dead. Knowing to eat would bind her there. Surrounded by silent souls, she felt more prisoner than queen, her longing for the living world unending. Hades waited, showing her the power she could wield as queen, but Persephone's hunger and sorrow grew. One day, in a moment of weakness, she found a glowing pomegranate in the dark gardens. She ate 6 seeds, small, secret, and fateful. That single act sealed her bond to the underworld. Above, Demeter's grief threatened all life. Persephone's 6 pomegranate seeds forged an unbreakable tie to the underworld. As famine worsened, Zeus relented, sending Hermes to demand Persephone's return. Hades agreed, but reminded Persephone of the law. She had eaten the food of the dead. Her joy at leaving turned to dread. She could never fully return. The pact was set. Persephone belonged to both worlds. The fate of gods and mortals would hinge on this compromise. Persephone's confession to Demeter brought both joy and sorrow. She could not stay above forever. Zeus decreed, for each seed 1 month in the underworld, 6 months with Hades, 6 with Demeter. Thus the seasons were born, spring and summer for Persephone's return, autumn and winter for her descent. Persephone embraced her dual role, core in sunlight, queen in shadow. She ruled beside Hades not as captive but as sovereign, respected by the dead, a bridge between worlds. In darkness and in light, Persephone's power shaped the fate of gods and mortals alike. As Persephone grew into her role, her reputation evolved. To the mortals above, she was the beloved goddess of spring, whose return was met with joy and celebration. But she also gained another name, a title whispered with fear and reverence, the dread Persephone. She was the one goddess who lived among the dead, who understood their secrets. This dual nature made her uniquely powerful and honestly pretty intimidating. She was no longer just an innocent maiden. She was a deity who commanded the forces of destruction and the finality of the grave. She was the gatekeeper, the one who saw all souls enter her kingdom from which there was no escape. Her power in the underworld was absolute. While Hades was the ultimate ruler, the king of his domain, Persephone was its heart. She was the one who often interacted with the more famous visitors to the realm. When the great hero Orpheus came to beg for the return of his dead wife Eurydice, it was Persephone's heart that was moved by his beautiful, sorrowful music. While Hades remained stern, it was his queen who persuaded him to grant the impossible request, though it came with a fatal condition. She held the power of mercy in a merciless place, a flicker of compassion in the eternal dark. She also became a figure of justice within her realm. The underworld was not a place of random punishment. It had laws and structure. Persephone helped to uphold that order. She was a fair but firm judge, her decisions carrying the weight of eternity. Mortals who tried to trick or defy death would ultimately have to face her. When the arrogant king Pirithous attempted to abduct Persephone herself from the underworld, she and Hades trapped him on a stone chair for eternity, a fitting punishment for his hubris. She was not a goddess to be trifled with. Her wrath was as potent as her husband's. This transformation from the gentle core to the dread Persephone is the core of her evolution. She did not lose her connection to life and light. She simply added a profound understanding of its opposite. She became a more complete, more complex being. She was the embodiment of the truth that life and death are not separate, but are two sides of the same coin. This made her feared, yes, but it also made her deeply respected by gods and mortals alike. She was the only one who could truly walk in both worlds, who understood the full, terrifying, and beautiful circle of existence. Persephone's life became a perfect, repeating cycle, a rhythm that dictated the pulse of the natural world. When her 6 months in the underworld came to an end, she would ascend. Her emergence from the ground was the signal for spring. As she walked the earth again, her mother Demeter's joy would cause the world to burst into life. The snows would melt, the seeds would sprout, and the barren fields would turn green. Flowers bloomed in her footsteps. The world celebrated her return with warmth and abundance through the long days of summer. She was life rekindled, hope made manifest, the promise of renewal fulfilled. But this joy was always temporary. As the months passed, the time for her descent would approach. The world seemed to sense her impending departure. The leaves on the trees would turn from green to gold and fiery red, as if blushing with sadness. A chill would enter the air. This was the melancholy of autumn, the world's gentle mourning for its soon-to-be-lost goddess. Demeter's sorrow would begin to return, and the earth would prepare for its long sleep. Persephone would say her goodbyes to the sun and the sky, to the world of the living, and prepare for her other life, her other home. Her descent marked the beginning of winter. As she crossed the threshold back into the realm of Hades, her mother's grief would once again cover the land. The earth would become hard and cold. The fields would lie fallow under a blanket of snow. It was a time of stillness and quiet, a reflection of the silent kingdom where Persephone now reigned as queen. Mortals would huddle by their fires, telling stories and waiting, always waiting, for the day when the queen of the underworld would once again become the maiden of the spring. Her absence was as powerful a force as her presence. This dual existence defined her. She was not fully a goddess of life, nor was she fully a goddess of death. She was the goddess of the transition between them. She represented the necessary cycle of loss and return, of dormancy and rebirth. She taught the world that for life to flourish there must be a period of rest, of darkness. For spring to be truly celebrated, winter must first be endured. Persephone, the queen of two realms, was not a tragic figure caught between two worlds. She was the living embodiment of that essential, eternal balance. No figure shaped Persephone's life more than her mother, Demeter. She was the goddess of the harvest, her love as nourishing as the sun. Demeter's devotion was fierce. She would see the world starve before losing her child. Her grief became a force of destruction, creating the seasons. In the end, Demeter's love broke the world and remade it, forever changing her bond with Persephone. Hades was the shadow to Persephone's light. He ruled a vast, lonely kingdom, rarely visited by the other gods. When he saw Persephone vibrant and alive, he wanted her, out of profound loneliness. His act was violent, but in the underworld he offered her a throne, power, and respect. Over time, Persephone became not just his queen, but an equal ruler, transformed, empowered, and complete. Zeus, king of the gods, shaped Persephone's fate from afar, not out of love, but for power and politics. He traded his daughter to Hades, treating her as a pawn in a divine alliance. Hermes, the swift messenger, was the agent of resolution, bravely descending to the underworld. He guided Persephone back to the light, bridging gods and mortals, fate and hope. Both Zeus and Hermes were essential, one the architect, the other the guide, in Persephone's transformation from maiden to queen. The myth of Persephone is an ancient explanation for the world's most fundamental rhythm, the cycle of the seasons. Each year she descends into the underworld, bringing winter, and returns to the world above, bringing spring and renewal. Persephone's journey connects life and death, loss and return. Her story is a promise that after every winter, spring will come again. It reminds us that hope and renewal always follow darkness. Persephone's story is one of resilience and duality. She begins as Kore, the innocent maiden, but endures trauma and emerges as queen of the underworld, powerful and wise. Persephone is both the goddess of spring and the queen of the dead, embodying light and shadow. Her myth reminds us that strength and complexity can coexist, and that embracing our dualities is our greatest power. Persephone's story did not end with the ancient Greeks. It has proven to be as resilient and cyclical as the seasons she commands. Her tale has echoed through the centuries, inspiring artists, poets, and storytellers. Painters depict her drama, from her abduction to her underworld throne. Her image spans from Renaissance canvases to pre-Raphaelite works. She embodies contrasts, light and shadow, joy and grief. Her myth is retold in literature, exploring complex themes. Poets see her as a metaphor for creative processes. Feminist reinterpretations reclaim her story as one of power. She symbolizes surviving trauma and forging new identities. Novelists use her journey to explore relationships and growth. Her story is a timeless blueprint for transformation. Her influence is vibrant in modern pop culture. She appears in TV shows, films, and video games. She is the goth girl with a secret love for sunshine. Her story fuels romance novels, exploring dark and light pairings. She is a brand, a style, an aesthetic of duality. Persephone's lasting legacy is her profound relatability. We no longer need her to explain the seasons, but to explain ourselves. She symbolizes being caught between two worlds. She represents enduring winters and finding strength in darkness. The maiden who became a queen reminds us that after the darkest descent, a spring is always waiting to bloom.